Salute, Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. What's good? Great to be with you as always. Shout out to the chat, replay gang. Salute. Let's talk about the Knicks in FIBA. As Team USA, Team Canada miss out on the final. We'll talk about it. We'll give our assessments of the tournament overall for these New York Knicks. It's been up and it's been down. But there were some positives in these performances. We'll chop it up. And of course, the rest of the Knicks, the latest news going on around the league. The New York Knicks also made a signing with Charlie Brown Jr. to an Exhibit 10 deal. We'll talk about that. And of course, we're only about a month away, ladies and gents, from pre-season action now. October 9, we are officially 1 month away from New York Knicks basketball officially. But yeah, the story, of course, was Team USA, Team Canada will now face off. Will get the face off, but not for the gold. Who would have predicted? Absolutely shocking, surprising for me. The competition was obviously getting stronger as the tournament went on, but to lose to Germany, obviously it's a failure for Team USA, right? They brought a great squad. I think it was still a great squad, capable of winning gold. They just ran into tough competition as well. The rest of the competition's getting tougher. I'll give my assessments. I think in terms of, there's some reactions. A lot of it's overreactions, I think. I think Team USA and Canada ultimately missing out on some size, big men that can post up. You need to be able to play inside and out to be able to, punish these teams. And I think ultimately, the shooting and the ball movement of Germany and Serbia punished Canada and USA. But RJ Barrett in the game led top scoring for Team Canada. That was the biggest positive for me, in the fact that RJ finished with 23 points, 3 rebounds in 31 minutes. He stepped up. He stepped up in a game that was important for his country, the highest stakes, the biggest game in Canada basketball history, basically. So we'll look at RJ's shot chart, where he got his looks, dissect his game. We'll hear from him, Jalen Brunson as well. Jalen Brunson was very honest with the loss and his assessment of his game. 15 points, 7 assists in 15 minutes. Didn't close the game out. Josh Hart also finished with 9 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist in 19 minutes. So I don't think they had an awful game. I think Hart played fairly well, was very efficient. He didn't miss a shot. Jalen Brunson was the worst in the team's plus minus, but you can't read a lot into the box score always. I think Brunson's size, he was struggling a bit with the trees, but he was aggressive in the fourth quarter, trying to get USA back into the game. He was pushing the break. I think Brunson finished with 4 of 9. We'll look at his box score, 44% from the field, 37.5% from 3, but was a team worst, minus 19. So, again, I'll give my assessment of the FIBA overall, as there's one more game left, and then we can get into our Knicks pre-season talk. We're a month away, ladies and gents, as Charlie Brown Jr. has been signed. And we'll look into the roster, and we'll talk about the rest of the roster that we have now, with a couple of camp deals. Obviously, so those guys have been taken care of, and they're going to come into training camp. They'll be cut. The likes of Washington, Jacob Toppin, Trevor Keels, Dimitrios Skapantsev, and now Charlie Brown, well deserved. I think from Charlie Brown. JJ, Hulu, what's good? Lily, Phillips, salute. How we feeling? Coach, Sherwin, what's good? Um, yeah, I want to hear everyone's thoughts as we can dissect FIBA. Ultimately, now there's one more game. Um, you know how I always like to, you obviously got to evaluate yourself always, but I like to give credit to the opponents, right? Germany and Serbia, they're no joke. A lot of the names people don't know about, but they are guys that can post you up. They can shoot the ball, and they play well as a team. I think that's ultimately, the biggest challenge from the other programs, Canada, USA, is to build chemistry. And that's one of the biggest reasons I feel that the New York Knicks will do well this year from the beginning of the season, because we have chemistry. We know our teammates, we have familiarity, and all of those things. So with that said, I think Germany are coming in here and they knew each other. They knew each other's game, and I think that's what really helped them in this tournament moving ahead. Dennis Schroeder's obviously a good player. Franz Wagner, a rising star in the league with Orlando, and they got big men. That Obst was a sharpshooter. So I think they only lost by 2 points, but I think big men. I think the size, obviously the NBA is moving away from post up game. It's a lot of face to the basket, live and die with the jump shot. And I think, in a 7-game series, NBA regular season, that can win you a lot of games. But when it's tournament basketball and it's knockout round, if you don't shoot well, you're susceptible to lose any game. Simple as that, really. So yeah, I think these teams. I think Canada will be stronger next year for Paris, but I think they need to obviously, find some big men. I think with some rim protection, and people can be critical of Jaren Jackson Jr. as well, because I do feel like he, he's good. He's good, better at the 4 situation. I think at the 5, again, they only brought like Kessler Walker or Walker Kessler, and obviously Bobby Portis is undersized for a big man. So I do think Team USA has to look at their recruiting as well. I'm not going to blame the players really. I mean, for the most part, they had a down performance here and there. Jaren Jackson probably one of the worst. They really miss Brandon Ingram in that final, another guy who could score. But even his game's not known to be physical, not built for this kind of game. So, learning lesson, I think, with that situation. I think, USA will come back with some big men, and so will Canada if they can. Coach is saying, should have got Monster Mitch. That could be something where they do in their review, and they look at, how they could have overcome some of these teams with extra size. Definitely, man. Mitch was part of Team USA select team, I think, was it a few years ago. What's good, Sherwin? USA was too small in this one. I can't fault the wings, the guard play. I think, size was an issue, definitely. The defense of Austin Reeves, teams did do their scouting. That's something like obviously other teams are going to respect the USA. Did the USA scout or respect the opponent enough with that situation? Like, for example, they targeted Austin Reeves, backed him down several times. That shooter on Germany, Andreas Obst, is a shooter, but he's not a defender either. Did the USA look at targeting him enough, getting into the post-up game? I don't think Paolo Banchero was utilized enough. Like I said, poor performance overall from Brandon Ingram in terms of that selection. He was a starter, then he was downgraded. Obviously, Kessler wasn't used enough. Bobby Portis probably wasn't used enough as well. As Smoke One says, all the third string guys, our real superstars, are ready and waiting, so it's no biggie for Paris. Yeah, definitely they'll bring everyone back now. I think KD, Booker. I think they might try to get Embiid signed up, because if USA can sign up Embiid, that means there's no Embiid on France. Coach saying losing to anyone is embarrassing. I think it's embarrassing from the fact also that they lost in 2019 in the World Cup. So that's 2 World Cups now that the USA's failed to win the gold. Now we're going to get to see what they look like against Canada. That's the matchup that a lot of people wanted. So we're going to get to see that, which is good. And I do think that USA will still win. I think they've got a lot more depth. But yeah, for Canada, Dylan Brooks, obviously Lou Dort, the biggest success story for this tournament was Team Canada. And from the Knicks perspective, if I'm ranking Barrett, Brunson, and Hart, not by a wide margin, but I would say RJ Barrett in terms of Canada's success story and what Barrett was able to do in this tournament, guys. So we'll look at the box score as well. But he didn't really show us a lot of things that we haven't seen. So it's not like RJ Barrett has popped off the page, but he had a couple of really nice games. Plays like this where he's got his head up, can drop down, distribute the ball, and the shot has looked slightly better as well. As we'll go through the box score. What's good, Mike? Yeah, Steve Kerr could get some criticism too, definitely. I think not as versatile. Pretty one-dimensional game plan if you look at how the USA tried to win games with isolation, with Mikal Bridges and Ant-Man saving them. Should he have trusted Jalen Brunson more? Like I said, I mentioned RJ Barrett, the success from the Knicks perspective. I'll give him a B for the tournament. For Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, I'll probably give them both a B minus. You could give them a C plus B minus, and that's as a tournament as a whole. So, not being overly critical of these guys, but yeah, it's no biggie. The way I look at it as a Knicks fan, first and foremost. Obviously, Team USA hate to lose, but every time you lose, you got to learn. You got to learn from these opportunities. As we see, Bully Barrett, like I said, these 23 points, 5 rebounds, and he was 57% from the field. So for me, like if you're looking at smaller things to take from this tournament, the fact that neither team's going to win the gold, I take things like this, right? In a must-win game, Bully Barrett stepped up. Let's hear from Bully Barrett and the coach.
So receive means that what was the stat? Sorry, can you repeat it?
You received more personal fouls in less than first three quarters, than in any previous World Cup game you played.
So receive means that the call were against us, that we fouled.
Yeah. There was a lot of frustrations about the officiating.
It's a great stat. As coaches, we always say you got to defend without fouling, and you have to be physical without fouling. Today, apparently we were not. Obviously, I'm not once again going to get into judging the officiating, but our guys kept fighting. In that third quarter, we cut it down to 7, and we were so close to make a run, and we stayed right there, and the reality is we couldn't get a stop. So that's going to be our focus. The officials will never be our focus, and we're going to go fight really hard.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's frustrations with the officiating is very different. That's something you got to take from this experience for these guys. I think, yeah, Bully Barrett, like coach says, will come into the season in form. Would hope that he starts the season better than he has the past few years, and I think he will. Um, yeah, I think obviously Murray and Wiggins might come back next year, but RJ Barrett's definitely solidified himself as a big part of Team Canada. As a young player coming up. Um, and obviously he plays through contact. We'll hear from Brunson, his assessment of himself in a minute. But What's Good Smoke says, what do you think will happen in the USA-Canada game? You rooting for RJ or Brunson? Can't be both. It's tough. That's a tough question, man. Yeah, it's kind of a wacky alternate reality watching two Knicks play each other while they're still on the Knicks, or three Knicks versus each other. I'm going to say I'm definitely rooting for USA in this game. For USA to lose to Canada would kind of be rock bottom from the USA perspective. But I think more so my reasoning is that Canada's has already had a great tournament, already achieved success from a wider perspective. They've made the Olympics. They're going to win their first medal in competition, I believe. And I think for USA, to finish the tournament off with a big win will be great. Let's hope these guys don't play too many big minutes, because I'm ready for them to get back home and to rest their bodies a little bit and then get ready for preseason. So I think, I want Josh Hart to play maybe 25, 20 minutes. Hopefully he can put up a double-double. And I hope Jalen Brunson can put up a double-double as well, 10 and 10 or something like that. Finish the tournament off strong. Now, with Brunson's performance, right, I mentioned he was a team worst, minus 19. Quite a polarizing performance if you look at his box score. Did shoot 44% from the field, 37.5% from the field. How did Brunson evaluate his performance? Let's hear from him.
Jalen, how do you think about your performance tonight?
Terrible. Plain and simple.
Jalen, how do you think about your performance tonight?
Terrible.
Make sure I got the audio going on that one.
Jalen, how do you think about your performance tonight?
Terrible. Plain and simple.
So yeah, with Brunson, right, he takes leadership. He never backs down in terms of if he's not happy with his performance. Brunson will always go out there and be critical of himself. So that's a leadership. That's a quality of a leader. I don't put this game on Jalen Brunson at all. In fact, he was definitely in the top half of the roster in terms of the whole Team USA. I think for this tournament, I mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. was a failure for the tournament. Austin Reeves had his moments, but then got abused defensively in a couple of games, couple of the losses. Obviously Kessler, Bobby Portis wasn't used. Brandon Ingram, Cam Johnson. So I put Brunson in the top half still of performers. He was leading the charges late in this game. He was getting aggressive. Trying to help the team come back, which was big. Now, obviously, it's his first foray into FIBA, so he's going to take a lot from this performance. But again, the mission that we hoped for as Knicks fans to come in for this season was these guys to come in, hopefully with a gold. That would have been gravy. But outside of that, good health, consistent performances, and then just coming into Knicks training camp, feeling good about the season, in shape, in a rhythm, and ready for Knicks preseason. And as a whole, like, it's going to be a failure for them individually, but for us as Knicks fans, right? I don't take too much into it. Like I said, RJ Barrett got more out of this tournament, I feel like, than Brunson and Josh Hart did. But from the USA vantage point, from Canada, definitely they need to come back with some extra size. Like Coach mentioned, Mitchell Robinson, Dirty mentioned Julius Randle in a couple of streams. So could we end up seeing more New York Knicks on Team USA for Paris? I mean, I think the A-listers are going to come out of the woodworks now, and definitely after USA losing this thing, they'll want to come back and make amends, and I think they will. Obviously when you bring the A squad with LeBron, Curry, or KD, Booker, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Dame. I know Trae Young. Trae Young wants to be part of this thing. Trae Young, in my opinion, would get eaten alive in this FIBA game. If they were posting up Austin Reeves, they're gonna switch on Trae Young every single time. JJ, what are your thoughts on Trae Young wanting to be a part of this thing? Being salty that he wasn't selected over Brunson. Reeves got abused, definitely, in the 2 losses. That's on Kerr as well. You bring a whole squad, make some adjustments. And I don't think ultimately Kerr made enough adjustments. Like when you go into the game with Germany, you know who's on that team. There's a very select few players that can make you pay. That's Dennis Schroeder, Wagner, that sharpshooter, and 1 or 2 of their bigs. That's enough for you to game plan. Game plan to stop a couple of those guys, and then you're good. But ultimately, they weren't able to do it. Sherwin's more harder on Brunson. I think that's fairly harsh, but you're welcome to your opinion. I think Brunson, obviously for this game, it wasn't his best game, that's for real. But shot the ball well, was aggressive later in the game. But obviously Kerr, I think, agreed with you. Steve Kerr took Brunson off the court late in the game. He needed extra scoring and size, I think. Yet more smoke for Kerr. Kerr dropped the ball with suspect rotations. Yep. Maybe he overreacted early too, taking Brandon Ingram. You have to look at that now. That was a big move early in the tourney, taking Brandon Ingram out of the starting lineup. What does he provide? He provides extra size, extra length. 6'10", can swat shots, can hit shots. Not known as a rebounder, obviously, but they were losing out on the boards big time. Yep. What's good, Lennard's? Don't think USA had size to play with Germany. They had a few guys with enough size, but not enough. I think Germany had quite a few guys with experience and post-up game as well. Ultimately, we don't know how our USA would have done against Serbia as well. I was really looking forward to that matchup because they've got size as well, like you said. But we'll look at the box score. We'll look at the shot charts. So we'll start off with Barrett. He was the biggest positive for me this morning. With his looks, he was in a groove again, but not shooting the ball overly great from 3, but really aggressive getting to the cup there. No mid-range, just scoring at will in the paint. I think Barrett is a really good FIBA player from what I've seen in terms of moving forward, being part of that program with Team Canada. I think RJ Barrett's ability to post up, ability to drive, get fouls, and finish strong is a highlight. And I think moving forward, yeah, he's going to be a big part of Team Canada and their play. Yet Knicks 1 says USA would have won in the best of 7. I agree with that. Yep, that's the difference between knockout ball and a best of 7 playoff series. Yep. Also, don't even care about bronze. Canada can have it. Let's get the NBA season going. Yep. Excitement for the New York Knicks upcoming season. I feel you on that. But yeah, one more game and then yeah, these guys do get to go home. I don't think a player wants to go home empty-handed. As much as bronze sucks, I do think that they're definitely going to play hard in this this final game. Now, yeah, Sherwin feels like Brunson was the reason USA lost. I disagree. I think there was a lot of players that struggled. Mikal Bridges was also a -8. He was their best defender. Austin Reeves, obviously he played 24 minutes, right? He played almost 5 more minutes than Brunson, and was gave the team some scoring, but was also abused. But yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr., right? 8 points in almost 18 minutes isn't going to get it done. Yeah, Bobby Portis, I don't know why they brought him along, because yeah, he wasn't used enough. Anthony Edwards obviously stepped up, big scoring. But yeah, Jalen Brunson was 4 of 9, 3 of 8 from deep. So I think he can hold his head up high. 15 points, right? I know he's a -19, but he was also in a critical part of the game when the USA were finding themselves down. Brunson was the one to put up some points and keep USA in the game as well. But I do think overall Josh Hart had a better game. With his 20 minutes, he was 4 of 4, perfect from the field. 100%. And I was 3 of 3 from the field, 1 of 1 from deep. But he was also a -6 as well. Now then, taking a look at RJ Barrett's chart. Again, yeah, big step up from Barrett in a must-win game. In his 31 minutes, again, he played big minutes all tournament. Did Bully Barrett, 8 of 14, right? 57% from the field. Went 3 of 8 from deep, so not too bad from 3. With his 23 points, was a -5. While Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I felt like had his worst game of the tournament. He was -22. Had some really poor decisions, shot selection as well. But SGA couldn't carry Canada over the hump. Right, so yeah, that's the story. Again, I rate Barrett's, out of all the Knicks, I'll rate Barrett's FIBA tournament World Cup as the best out of all of these Knicks. Then I'll probably give Brunson and Josh Hart a tie. Brunson came in with more expectations. Hart as the role player. Brunson as the starter. But I think, yeah, ultimately they both had their ups and their downs. I think Hart adjusts to the physicality of the FIBA game more. But yeah, Jalen Brunson had more expectations for the team on his back in terms of distributing and scoring. So, yep, we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Paris Olympics is going to be fascinating. Could they bring in more Knicks? Right, not a bad thing. And yeah, watch a lot of young players want to try to come in and help now. I mentioned 2 World Cups, 2019 and 2023, that the USA have failed to win the gold. But yeah, a success story for Canada so far. I don't blame anyone for not waking up at 4:30 for the bronze medal game. But yeah, we'll talk about it once it's done. We'll do one more show. We'll tie a bow on this whole FIBA thing, and then we'll get into Knicks training camp and all the content we got lined up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're officially 1 month away from the first preseason game. Dudes will be getting into the facility quickly. Deuce McBride putting in work. We mentioned with the release of the Knicks, Charlie Brown coming in, being signed, right? He impressed me in Summer League, and I actually expected the Knicks to give him a training camp deal. I was kind of surprised when they didn't. But lo and behold, this news dropped, I think yesterday. He's 26 years old, 6'6", 6'7", had a really good performance in Summer League, scored the ball well, averaged 19 points, 6 boards, 2 assists in this year's Summer League. What do you guys think of Charlie Brown? Right? Is he just going to get waived and then be on the G League squad? Or do you think there's a chance he could steal Isaiah Roby's spot or Daquan Jeffrey's spot? Sunil Andrews in the house. What's good? Shah Legacy. As Pat the Rat said, no rebounds, no rings. Josh Hart was there, but yeah, they're big men. What do you guys think? More Bobby Portis, less Jaren Jackson? Like I said, you could dissect it a lot of different ways, but they lost one game, basically, to be eliminated. In a best of 7, the USA still win. But yeah, ultimately they just weren't good enough to beat Germany. Germany shot the ball extremely well. To me, I blame the coaching department more than the players because, again, coming into a game against Germany, who are the few guys who you need to game plan against? It's simple. It's clear as day. You shut down Dennis Schroeder. You shut down that shooter guy and their bigs, and you win. But I think USA just tried to outscore. What's good, Shah Legacy? Great question, man. Let me look that up. But what is RJ's field goal percentage for the entire FIBA? That's going to be a great way to evaluate this tournament, because obviously, we're looking at RJ Barrett's efficiency, and is he a plus when he's on the floor? Should he shoot more? Should he take more of these shots? One way I like to evaluate is obviously, more important games, must-win game. Was it for Bully Barrett? And he shot the ball reasonably well. Very efficient from 2, and a 3 of 8 this morning in a must-win game. Do I think Brunson should have been more aggressive? I don't think that was the issue. I think Brunson on the Knicks definitely needs to be more aggressive because the Knicks rely on Brunson scoring. But I think for Team USA, Brunson needed to be more of a distributor. I think that was his role. I think he was aggressive in the 4th quarter early to try to push the break. I just think the rim protection, the size, the physicality of the game was tough for Jalen Brunson. And I mentioned this in a previous show, but Brian Windhorst, ESPN, who's watched so many of these FIBA tournaments before, knows the NBA game as well as anybody. In a podcast, he said, undersized guards struggle in FIBA. He didn't mention Brunson's name. He didn't mention anyone's name. He just was giving his thoughts on what does it take to succeed in FIBA. What's the difference between the NBA game and the FIBA game? And he said, small guards don't do well in FIBA generally because, again, there's physicality. You can smack the ball off the rim as well. So smaller guards generally try layups as well. So, yeah, they've got to finish in traffic. Dirty's thoughts on Triple J. Lost a ton of respect for him. The foul trouble, the rebounding. Yeah, for a young kid though, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Was played out of position as well. Like I said, in terms of the NBA game, still got a bright future, but I think we've seen the FIBA game is different, guys. It's different. It's kind of like there are different sports where it's such as, like, let's say if you're a soccer fan, you've obviously got 11v11, then you've got futsal 5v5. There's different skill sets thrive. Dirty saying RJ shot his standard 43-34, but terrible from the free throw line. 58. Yeah. I don't take Barrett's efficiency out of this tournament as a plus, but what I do take is his ability to make some decisions while on the floor. I think his floor game overall, he had some really nice assists. He dealt with the physicality well. And I just think, yeah, for his role on Team Canada, it was a lot bigger than, and they were a lot more reliant on him than USA was on Brunson, I think. But also, yeah, like Coach said before, let's envision that RJ Barrett carries this momentum into a Knicks season now and starts the season well. He's the starting wing. That's not going to change. RJ Barrett's the starting wing here. Appreciate you, fam. Let's get it. Smoke one. You guys let me know if you're feeling better about this Knicks season based on what you've seen. Might have nothing to do with FIBA, but just give me your opinions on the 44.5 win projection from Vegas. And what do you think? Now, Brunson's strengths, right, is in the mid-range as well. Not a great volume three-point shooter. He's good at getting to the rim in the NBA game when there's more spacing. But, you know, when evaluating Brunson's FIBA game, right, performance, people saying he was one of the reasons the team lost. I'm looking at a lot of different factors, right? Brunson needs floor spacing. Right, there's less floor spacing in FIBA. And then the three-point game and on volume's not his strength. It's mid-range and its ability to post up a little bit as well. He posted up a lot of guards in the NBA. In FIBA, not so much. So yeah, that was something to really pay attention to. But for me, I'm feeling much better about this season based on our preseason overall, not just FIBA. But I think we've done really well in terms of the fringe signings. I think DiVincenzo is going to have a big impact late in games. His floor spacing is going to be critical. Now, RJ Barrett, there might be situations where he's not closing games out again. Because if he's not shooting the ball well, there's Quickly, there's DiVincenzo, there's more options now. So if for Barrett to earn more minutes, in my opinion, he needs to shoot the three ball efficiently and he'll close the game out. Or if he's good defensively, he'll close the game out. If he's struggling defensively or the three-point ball's not flowing, I could see Tom Thibodeau going with some other options also down the stretch. Yeah, gravity is sometimes more important than hitting every shot, like a Jimmy Butler. Yeah, great point. You're respecting your shot. And you look at guys like on Germany, that Obbs, the three-point shooter, right? Not many people knew about him coming in, but what did he do later in the game? He pulled gravity. He's like, you hit a couple shots, yeah, and suddenly you got all-stars like Tyrese Halliburton worried about you, focusing on you, keying in on you. And what does that do? That makes your teammates better. You know, that takes a defender away so that you can then get in your spot, yeah, and produce as well. But yeah, the chat's on fire tonight. I love your takes, your thoughts on this situation. I always try not to overreact. I take the good, the bad, the ugly. And yeah, you guys made some great points about next year. I think, hey, Mitchell Robinson has a great season. They absolutely should look at Mitchell Robinson. I'm hearing people talk about Jarrett Allen and Bam Adebayo. Fair enough. He might still be a little undersized, but I've heard of people talk about Jarrett Allen and Plumlee and these guys ahead of Mitch. I'm thinking, like, how could you forget about Mitch? He's one of the best centers from the USA, especially for the FIBA game, right? How many second chance points, putbacks, tip-ins, lobs, blocks would Mitch have had, right? He could have just been a 10 and 10 guy all tournament and helped USA win. So that'll be interesting to see whether they did approach Mitch or not. We can never assume they didn't approach players, because I heard JJ Redick talk about, I think it was back in 2019, he was approached as a 35-year-old. He said no. So there are players that are approached, and sometimes they just say no because they don't want to give up their summer, which is fair enough. But let's see. I expect it to maybe be a blend of this team with a new sprinkle of the veterans. KD, Booker, I think Steph will commit, and I think it's going to be good. Yeah, Lily, from the Knicks perspective, you hit Mitch's injury history. That would be a bad idea. Yeah, in terms of, like, the USA's won many gold before, right? As a Knicks fan, my biggest fear was that someone would come in and get injured. It might derail our whole season. So, thankfully, one more game, and I think the main reason why good players don't want to commit, if we're being real, it's because they don't want to give up their summer and they don't want to risk, carrying an injury. The club game is their bread and butter. It's their day to day, and they want to win that Larry O'Brien. A lot of these players more than a gold. Let's keep it real. I'll be nervous if they take Julius Randle as well. Now, if we win the championship, then I couldn't care less. Yeah, let these guys go, win gold, commit. But if you look at Serbia and you look at Canada, they didn't bring Joker and they didn't bring Murray. So those guys were just gassed after the NBA season. They wanted to rest. So I definitely feel you on that. Now, as we wish Deuce McBride a happy birthday as well. What are your expectations for Deuce McBride coming to this season, right? Had a really successful season, helping us out, make the second round. His defense coming in definitely helped change our season. Josh Hart gets a lot of shine, but Deuce McBride should get equal shine as well after Evan Fournier came out of the rotation. Now, we talk about positives from FIBA. We cannot forget to mention Rokas Jokubaitis, the Knicks draft and stash. Now, Rokas has had a great tournament so far. He's shown me that he's ready for the NBA game right now, in a year's time, 2 years' time. If and when there's a spot available, I think we should bring Rokas over. Now, that just gives us more flexibility if there's a trade, right? If they end up needing to trade quickly, then we've got depth. We've got Rokas, we've got Deuce McBride, who's developing and ready to step in. Situational at the moment, absolutely. until he can hit the three ball, too much guard depth, unless of the injury. Yeah, I'm predicting a lot of G League minutes from Deuce McBride, which is good for his development. You know, you always hate to see a young player not play. If he's not getting minutes, he should definitely be with the G League squad a lot. Now, let's hope we blow a lot of teams out and he can get some garbage time. But yeah, you're spot on about the three ball. I think ultimately against Miami, we needed him to come in and help a little bit offensively. And I think Deuce McBride was good defensively in the playoffs, but offensively was his weakness. Not known for his offense, but to be a two-way player, yeah, if he develops further offensively, then we got a great one. We have a great one in Deuce McBride. He's only earning what, $1 million, something like that. Super cost friendly. In fact, a lot of teams have inquired about Deuce McBride as well. A very, very cheap, very, very solid backup for other teams around the league. Yeah, I can't see it either, JJ. I can't see him getting too many minutes, to be real. But good for depth in case there is an injury. In case, also don't forget, guys, we have 13 back-to-backs, with 8 of them coming in the first 2 months. So I want Tom Thibodeau to utilize our depth a lot more in terms of those back-to-backs, right? Again, Jalen Brunson is coming off 2 seasons now where he's gone deeper into the playoffs, and now he's played FIBA. So please do some load management with Jalen Brunson to keep him fresh. Now, expecting Tibbs to not play him in back-to-backs is wishful thinking, but if he can reduce the minutes down a little, like down to, let's say it's 30 minutes on the first night of a back-to-back, 28 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back, get quickly in there, get Deuce in there, get DiVincenzo running the point. Yeah, please do that. Please do that. David, salute. I don't know what DiVincenzo is yet. All I know is Grimes is playing his spot right now. Yeah, I think Grimes is still going to keep that starting 2 spot, but closing games out, we know Tom Thibodeau likes the veteran. So that's what I can foresee. I could really see DiVincenzo winning some closing minutes. Maybe not immediately, but later into the season, I could really see that happening. Also, we can't forget about this guy. Right, we know he's going to close a lot of minutes, right? Yeah, that video again went viral with him yelling at Tibbs saying, "I can play all 48 if you need me to." Now, I think Josh Hart had a fairly solid FIBA. Was never going to play a huge role, but played the role that he was needed to play. In fact, in a must-win game, right, he was 5 of 5 from the field, 9 points, 19 minutes, rebounded better than probably Jaren Jackson, rebounded better than any of the bigs. I think salute to Josh Hart for just doing his role. My biggest fear is, though, that Tom Thibodeau is going to play him too much. He's going to overplay him later in games. I love the floor spacing part of it, and I think that's going to be the biggest storyline to watch in terms of our depth. Who's going to close games out? Doing this minutes allocation was one of the trickiest things I've had to do, and we don't even have really the 10th guy. Technically, I mean, I'm still iffy on Isaiah Roby because we just don't know what to expect. Preseason could change a lot of opinions. It could swing things. Health, obviously, as well. But I think definitely Tibbs is going to select Hart to close at the 4 over Isaiah Roby with those backup minutes. Now, should RJ Barrett get some backup minutes at the 4? I think so. I think he will. Nathan Knight is a guy I'm really curious to see what he's got, because I have heard a lot of Minnesota fans were really wishing him well and were really really complimentary of Nathan Knight's abilities. Hybrid backup 3-4, can shoot, 6'8", really athletic, plays above the rim, has that dog, has that aggression, likes to be physical. I could really see Nathan Knight supplant Isaiah Roby out of that kind of backup minutes as well. Daquan Jeffries, I could see them keep him in a roster spot on an unguaranteed deal, so that they can cut him at any time. I think right now he's just keeping the seat warm, because we need guys that are happy to not play. We have so much depth. I think DiVincenzo's struggles a little bit came in the playoffs. David, I heard that some Golden State guys, did say he did shrink a little bit in the playoffs. That's their opinion, but I think DiVincenzo has been brought in as a depth piece off the bench. He's going to help us in the regular season. I think his shooting, his versatility, his rebounding, all of that. Well, I also really like the signing of Dylan Windler, who's an incredible rebounder as well. 6'7", averaged something like 11 rebounds in college. Quite possibly be a better rebounder than Josh Hart is. So don't sleep on Dylan Windler. Health permitting, I think health is the biggest concern for him. He's been having a stop-start career so far, but the talent is there. You talk to Cleveland people again. Dylan Windler was a first-round draft pick as well, so he's got talent. So that's why I graded those two-way signings with Jalen Martin, Knight, and Windler. I gave that a B+, because I think, in years past, I think we kind of wasted those spots, but with these guys, there's genuine potential for them to be needed or get rotation minutes if there's an injury. Possibly outplay somebody, you never know. Again, I'm looking at the Isaiah Roby situation, a guy who has had some moments in the league, has shot the ball well at times, but has just been inconsistent. And I think, he found himself on teams like OKC, the San Antonio Spurs, who just had better younger players. I think he was surplus to their requirements. But one more FIBA game, we'll chop up the bronze, the gold. Toronto fans got to be feeling better about what they're seeing with Dennis Schroeder. But for USA, for Canada, right, to see Brunson, Hart, and Barrett go up against each other, it's going to be fun. I'm not really caring about the gold, the bronze, the silver in this situation now. The tournament's over, and we can get ready for the Knicks training camp. But if I'm talking about positives out of the tournament, I talked about RJ Barrett as being the top positive to come out of the tournament in terms of his situation with Canada, and him stepping up in big games. Nothing we haven't seen. He hasn't really flashed incredible shooting, but his defense has been solid. The decision making, things like this, letting the game come to him, making the right reads, is what you want to see in a higher pressure game. Now, it's kind of been a trend with Barrett, right? When others crumbled in the pressure of the playoffs, RJ Barrett actually stepped up in the playoffs, right? Quickly, Grimes, they had their struggles. So did some others. RJ Barrett was one of the shining lights in the playoffs, but this FIBA tournament, he's been solid. He's not been great, not been bad. He's just been solid, for my opinion. But yeah, coming into a Knicks season, I think he's going to have a better start to the year. He's going to come in with some extra momentum, extra pep in his step. Now, having solidified that Olympic berth, and also having possibly won a bronze medal, leading his country to the highest ever finish in a tournament. So that's been really big. David's excited for Nate Knight. Yeah. Let us know if you have any takes on him. You've seen much of him in Minnesota, but I like his moxie. He's really got that attitude, and I think New York could be the perfect environment for him for this team. I think Tom Thibodeau, obviously we know, loves that chippiness. He loves a player that gets after it, really gets after it, and being physical. Now, obviously, behind Barrett, Brunson and Hart, I'll give them a B- for the tournament. I'll give Barrett a B+, or a B. Sorry, I gave Barrett a B, Hart and Brunson a B-. Again, they weren't coming in to take over. They were there to play their role, help the team along. Yeah, could Brunson have tried to take over more? Absolutely. We know he's a go-to scorer, but with Bridges, with Tyrese, with Ant-Man, I think he wasn't going to do that. But I think the coaching of USA was found wanting, and I think the bigs, ultimately, Jaren Jackson, is just disappointing. I think they could have probably played Josh Hart more because he was the best rebounder for his size. Smoke says, CT, despite what happened with Obi, who would you choose, DiVincenzo or Toppin, on how we are constructed? Who you think will benefit the team's longevity? Great question, man, as well. Appreciate you. In terms of DiVincenzo, who would I choose if I had the chance, right, despite what happened with Obi? I think fit, like, obviously long-term, for a future and a long-term, I would pick Obi's upside. But I don't think Obi was able to achieve that on the New York Knicks. I think for a team destined to go deep into the playoffs in a tight rotation, I think DiVincenzo's the better fit for this roster right now. But I think obviously long-term upside, Obi just was not going to get that opportunity on the New York Knicks. And based on how we were built, based on the projections, based on the coach as well. So I think, the Knicks are valuing every single win with MSG, with season tickets, with playoff berths, all of that. In a world where Julius Randle wasn't here, Obi Toppin would have been our starting four. I really believe he was deserving of getting that opportunity to be a starting four in the league. But for a team destined to try to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's tricky. The Obi selection was a good learning lesson too. I mentioned before in a previous show, if I'm a GM or I'm a scout and I'm drafting, I'm definitely looking at things like age. I'm definitely looking at things like position, because with your job on the line, you can't afford to draft a player that you're not 100% certain about what position they're going to play, because then that's just going to create more questions, as well as age, as well. If I'm drafting a 23-year-old or a 22-year-old, and I'm a franchise trying to win, I'm looking at, like, is this player ready to play immediately, big minutes? Is he ready to help this team win straight away as well? I think the New York Knicks selected Obi obviously based on his talent, but I think there was a little bit of that sentiment being the hometown kid with that selection as well. So I think we've done really well drafting after Obi. We've hit on these role players with Quickly, with Grimes, with Deuce, with Rokas. It looks like we wait to see. But I don't want to go another year without drafting a player. You know, it's been 2 seasons now that we haven't selected a player in the draft, and we absolutely need to draft a player, I think, coming up to continue the youth coming up. Because when this trade comes, when it eventually hits, I think the New York Knicks are going to need that extra young players and that depth coming in. David loves Nate Knight's size, athleticism. Yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, agree, 100%. Yep. If I'm looking at a dude who's got the best chance at winning backup minutes, I'm looking at him, to be honest with you. I could see Tibbs falling out of love with Roby. He's not known to be physical, can shoot the ball, but I think Nathan Knight can shoot the ball just as well as Roby can. And he's got that kind of game. It's funny to say this, but he is kind of a hybrid Julius. He's a bully 4 that can be athletic, a little undersized, not lengthy, but physical and can shoot as well. So, do you guys think that's a fair comp? Nathan Knight could be a lighter version of Julius Randle. I have Indiana as our fave for next season. I want to follow Obi's career. I think he will be very good and will be a winner with them. Yeah, rooting for the kid, absolutely. I'm not rooting for Indiana, but I think he will help. He will help them. He'll fit well with Tyrese, with their youth, Benedict Mathurin getting up and down, Nemhard. I think, yeah, he might run into some obstacles with 2 things. With Coach Carlisle, we'll see. Coach Carlisle's, it sounds like, you know, Indiana's, you know, being coached to try to make the playoffs now. I think they're done trying to rebuild. And I think the other thing is the draft pick they took, Jarris Walker. I think he's going to have to beat him out. He's going to have to compete and win those minutes. But I think he's got the edge. He's got the edge on Walker because of his NBA experience. You know, 2 out of his 4 years in the league have been in the playoffs, I think, for Obi. In fact, Obi's only been in the league 3 years, so 2 out of his 3 years has been in the playoffs with Obi as well. And I think Coach Carlisle might like that. That's something that, yeah, he's really valuing. Like I said, they're not rebuilding anymore. But yeah, speaking of not rebuilding, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap this thing up, right, we're a month away from NBA preseason. The New York Knicks take on the Boston Celtics on October 9. We are September 9 right now, about to hit. Right, we play Boston twice, and it's going to be a great opportunity to see these kids battle it out in camp. I think Quickly's bound for a big year, Quentin Grimes, and I think RJ Barrett will take what he's learnt from FIBA, the physicality, the competition, the leadership element. Let's not forget about RJ Barrett developing to be a veteran, be a leader in this team, right? Could RJ Barrett be more of a vocal leader and step up? Now, this is his 5th year in the league. You know, especially at times when this team needs some calm heads. We got a situation where Julius Randle can get frustrated. Mitchell Robinson can blow his top. It can't all just be on Brunson to lead, be a calm head. I think the fact that Barrett's the second option on Canada in a tournament, about to win, possibly win bronze. I think RJ Barrett's maturation is coming full circle now, and I think that's big. Yeah, I hope Obi doesn't show out at the MSG. That'll be crazy smoke. He's going to be fired up to prove Tibbs wrong. I think big time. So yeah, we wait to see with that. But yeah, wishing him well. It didn't work out here. Hasn't worked out for Evan Fournier. Some signings work out, some don't. It happens. I think the biggest issue was the Knicks didn't trade him earlier, and we didn't get enough value back. Right? If we were able to get 3 second-round picks, that's even better. But to just get 1 second-round pick for Obi was a failure for me. But yeah, we move. We wait to see preseason here. Let's get it on the next one. We'll chop up the bronze and the gold game after that, and then we'll get ready to start previewing the season. Got some guests lined up to come on and chop it up. EJ will be back. He's handling his business, and we'll be here. Salute to the best chat in the biz, and a replay gang. The streets are buzzing. Smashing that like button.